Okay, hey everybody, welcome to YouTubers Unite. This is a show by growing YouTubers and for growing YouTubers. My name's Will Fox, and my buddy here, Tristan Johnson, and I have no idea what I want to say right now, and have f***ed up this introduction.
Oh no. Let's save it. Let's save it. This is good stuff. So, a number of months ago, let's go back and talk about YouTube first. So we are both YouTubers. We've been growing at around the same rate at the same time, and maybe about 8 or 9 months ago, I came to you about doing a video together, and then you came to me. Wait, who came? Someone came to somebody.
I think you came to me. I think you were the first person. We can go back into our YouTube messages at some point and check, but I think it was you.
Okay. So one of us came to another person, and we together made a nice little cute video for the Iowa caucus, which now, which
it was glorious.
It seems like so long ago, but yet it seems so close as well. And we've been kind of growing at a steady rate ever since. And when I pitched about maybe 2 or 3 months ago that we should start a podcast, I think your first instinct was to say, no, that's a dumb idea. But then...
not that I did not think it was a dumb idea, but I was nervous because for me, I have this tendency of saying yes and then being overwhelmed with stuff and just having too much on my plate. And my upload schedule on YouTube is bad enough as it is every 4 to 8 weeks at this point. And so I thought if I have any more distractions, it will just get worse. That was the main thing holding me back.
Yes, and now, after a few rounds of ideas and a little bit of convincing and one disastrous camping trip to Sweden later, we're now actually starting a podcast. And so I guess, like, we talked a little bit. Will just told you the value thing. It's by growing YouTubers for growing YouTubers. And so if you, aspiring YouTube creator out there, want to follow along with us as we grow our channels, make our mistakes, and tell you about the things that we've learned along the way so you don't make the same mistakes, this is the place to be. We're going to try to keep it light and fun, and most important, actionable.
And Tristan's big, so we're both big on A words. Tristan's big on actionable. That's his A word. And my A word is authentic. So my plan as we do these podcasts is, of course, I want to give you actionable advice just like Tristan, but I also just want to be real with you guys as I'm making mistakes and growing and having frustrations. YouTube does have its up and downs, and so it's when those things happen, we're going to come here and we're going to be honest with you so that you get it from us, our firsthand accounts of what it feels like to have a video get big or what it feels like to have a video stay in relative obscurity for weeks and weeks and weeks and not get the views you think it deserves. So, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Well, we will do the meditation and the internal work to make sure that you walk away from each episode of YouTubers United with something to do for your channel to make it better or to avoid a mistake that commonly YouTubers make.
I think another thing that's really important to mention for this podcast is that we're going to be building a community here. We want to hear from you, and we want this to be an interactive thing. So we've set up our social media accounts, and before you start to roll your eyes at this plug for social media, just hear me out. Yeah, we will read the things you send us. We will take your comments into mind, and if you recommend like a topic or an episode, perhaps even something you want to hear from us as two YouTubers who are, 10,000 is not nothing. It's not big. It's not, we can help. Then please do tell us, and we'll be happy to think about it and to read those things. So follow us over on YT United Podcast on Twitter, YT United Podcast on Facebook. You can email us at ytunitedpodcast@gmail.com. Wow, that was difficult to say.
Yeah, if you put YT United Podcast into a thing, you'll probably find us. So the next thing that we should probably tell everybody is that we have like a format for this show. So we're going to have our first little bit where we're going to give you a little wrap up of everything that we've been doing, how our channel's been going or growing or not growing. And then we'll talk about some subject du jour. So something like, how do you do a collaboration? How does that actually work? How do you just email people and say, hey, I like your channel, let's do stuff together? Well, we can talk about...
The secret is that the answer to that question is yes, you do. You just email them and ask.
Well, there's a subtle social art that is for a future video.
There is.
You also will then have a second half, and now this is something that we're experimenting with, but basically we're going to alternate between either a question and answer session, where we will fill people in on their struggles with YouTube, and possibly channel reviews, which is where we're going to have our dear listeners send us their channel links, and we're going to, we're going to do the legwork. We're going to watch their videos, pending you don't have like a billion videos, and we're going to go through the channel, the setup, and everything like that, and we will give these guys actionable advice to improve their channel, and you can take down notes to try and, set that up yourself.
Yep, and the only other thing I'll add to what Tristan's beautiful description there is that we'll also try to bring on, because we know it, we're 10,000, and so dishing out advice at 10,000 is pretty presumptuous. And so we also have the goal of bringing in bigger YouTubers to talk about how they went maybe from 10 to 100,000. But you little guys out there, don't be worried, because me personally, I know I struggled at the under 100 cap. Under 100 subscribers was difficult for me. Under 1,000 was super difficult. So we know the struggle, and we're going to just try to get you the most information, the most authentic experience we can.
And don't forget that we'll have, on top of like guests that really know what they're doing, we might also have guests that go outside of our realm, because we do know that we are also limited as channels. Both Will and I run educational channels. Mine is 100% animated, which means that zero camera work plays a role in my day-to-day video making. And so, when it comes to doing something like why you shouldn't just make a YouTube channel where you play Minecraft and screen cap it, and why you need to, how to build a gaming channel, how to build a vlogging channel. Crap, we might even do one about the people who make cakes or put on makeup, Depends upon what kind, like, there's a lot of different things that YouTube channels do.
Hello out there to everyone who makes cakes or puts on makeup.
Yeah. Like, if anybody wants to go outside of that realm, we will talk to them, because we're not going to have two guys who have probably worn makeup for, like, plays maybe once tell you how to do a makeup channel. It doesn't seem right.
No. That's really well said. Absolutely. This is going to be for the YouTubers community. And of course, if there's hot topics, we'll talk about those as well. Tristan, you mentioned that our channels are education channels, and that, maybe our listeners are not running education channels. But just for those listening, why don't you go ahead and tell us, what is your channel? You teased it a little bit there, saying that you animate every single second of every single video. What is your channel?
All right, so I guess we should, we're going to swap our stories about what we do. So my channel is called Step Back History, and I've been running it now for actually like almost a week shy of a year as the recording of this show. I guess to give the story is that my channel's hit 10,000 subscribers about a month ago, so I had one at 10,000 about 11 months. But that's a deceptively successful sounding story, because a lot of people are like, how did you grow so fast? The story goes is that I've actually been on YouTube just shy of 10 years.
I've heard this story before.
And I had a channel a long time ago that I really sincerely hope never sees the light of day. And I vlogged and talked about politics, and I was, atheism was the big thing, so I was doing that for a while. I did that back in like 2007, back in the day. I had no eye for how to build a channel that grows. I had no idea what a branding was. I didn't do anything correctly. So I shut down the channel at my then girlfriend's, now wife's advice, about spring of 2015. The channel was a disaster. I had 800 subscribers, but my videos were netting like 4 or 5 views a video.
Whoa.
So I went soul searching, and I spent several months doing nothing, not making YouTube videos. And then in the summer of 2015, the idea came to me that, like, oh, there's a lot of these really like good animated YouTube channels. You know, your CGP Greys, your like Kurzgesagt, and all those other fun channels.
Yeah.
There's a lot of educational YouTube channels out there, and I realized there's something strange about them all. They are almost 100% hard STEM sciencey fields. And I was a person doing his PhD, or about to start his PhD in history at the time, and I was thinking, well, that means that there's got to be like a huge gap for where history could fit into the overall YouTube ecosystem. And before I even made my first video, I made the channel Step Back History back in like August of 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I did to figure out what I was going to do is I actually messaged Cody from the Alternate History Hub, who a gigantic channel, probably the closest thing to a big history channel here on YouTube.
Right.
And I guess I just caught him on a good day, and he actually took a Skype call for maybe an hour or two. And he told me how he makes his videos. And what I found out is you start to learn that a lot of YouTube videos are not animated so much as they are a fairly fast slideshow. And when he told me that he makes his videos in Google Slides, and this is like a channel that has had enough subscribers that Amazon paid him to go to like a conference to report on it and things like that. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I could draw something in Google Slides and make a video. And so I did. I made my first video in September of 2015. I mean, it cringes to make me look at it now, but it's been quite a year because I went into it from scratch with new ideas and a plan. And we will talk about plans later in the show. Maybe not this show, but not other. I went with a distinct brand message, and I really have been doing anything to try and make this work. So, and it's
First of all, Tristan, well, a very important question for the viewers, and it's about 2 minutes back, but you mentioned you had another channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all the viewers would be really interested in knowing, what is that channel, Tristan?
It was called Tristan PEJ.
So if anybody wants to look up Tristan PEJ, did you privatize all the videos, or are there still some things?
So one of the things I did near the end of the Tristan PEJ channel is I started doing something called The Histories, which was like a really crappy version of what I'm doing now. Mm-hmm. And I did that, and I made maybe like 150 episodes of it. And so what I did was I deleted / privatized like 90% of my videos, and anything that I thought was usable for the public interest. Like I had a few videos that were actually pretty decently received that I kept up, but most of them are gone now. So my channel is usually it's just a bunch of my old histories videos and a couple videos telling you to go to Step Back History.
Speaking of which, that's a topic for a future episode, is to talk about when to privatize, when to unlist, or when to leave old content or maybe slightly embarrassing content back up on your channel. So, to go back into your story, you started Step Back History, you made that transition over, and you got a little help there at the beginning from Cody. Was there like one piece of advice, like anything interesting that Cody told you that might be helpful for anyone listening?
The main thing is that you don't have to have really good art skills to make passable graphics on a YouTube channel. That there are channels like Jabzy or like Alternate History Hub where their art skills are not that amazing. They can't really draw per se, but they have good enough writing, good enough content behind them that it actually works. And that people don't care as much about having amazing animations. Like they don't need like Warner Brothers here to make a successful YouTube channel that you can even live off of. That was the main piece of advice I think that I took away from Cody's talk.
Which, if you're not familiar with Cody's channel, Alternative History Hub, his animation style is, it's like the glorified slideshow, and that's not to insult him at all. It looks really nice. He's got these rounded offs. They're like stick figures, but they're round. I don't know how to describe that with rounded eyes.
I always think of the pieces on a Sorry board. Like the
I don't know what Sorry is.
The board game Sorry.
Oh, Sorry. Yeah. Those. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, I'm with you.
So, like, yeah.
It does. It looks like that with eyes.
Mm-hmm. And he does a really great job at it. But it just shows that, like, with Google Slides, it's free. You can make passable graphics for a YouTube video with no technology.
Very true.
To change gears, you were talking about deleting and unlisting embarrassing old videos. Can you tell me about Fox Cousins / Political Junkie News / Just Political Junkies now?
I can. I moved to Spain like 3 years ago. I'm American. I'm from Texas, but I moved to Spain after I finished my degree. I had a quarter-life crisis, I guess, and I just felt like I needed to go do something totally different and learn a new language. While I was there, I started to feel a little down because I had come accustomed to talking with people about politics and religion and philosophy during my degree. And so I actually rang up my cousin over Skype or maybe on email or something, and I said, hey, listen, we should start like meeting up on Skype every week or every couple weeks, and we should talk politics. And at some point, the idea came to start uploading that content onto YouTube. And you can actually go back on my channel, Political Junkie, and you can see these really old videos that are grainy as hell. Looks like 2005. It was actually 2015, but just due to video quality limitations, they look that way. And kind of like Tristan's describing, these are videos that got maybe like 5, 6, 20 views. I actually have this memory of like checking my phone and getting excited when one of my view counts was like 28. So I know that struggle. And at some point, I made kind of a CGP Grey rip-off video about the UK elections. I didn't even know I was ripping them off at the time because I wasn't a fan, but that style is so ubiquitous that I did it with just slideshows, once again, pictures explaining the UK elections, and that video got big. And that was the point where I decided to rebrand my channel and start doing educational videos, and it's morphed since then. So my cousin kind of dropped off the scene after a while, so I renamed the channel to Political Junkie News. The idea was news for political junkies, and I've since decided to take off the news portion even because I'm not really covering topical content. But it's been a nice ride, and there was a very, very long period prior to 100 subscribers and then post 100 subscribers where things were definitely very slow. And so being at 10,000 now and just crossing that threshold a couple weeks ago, I feel like I'm ready now to give people advice and to help y'all out with your channels.
Yeah, I do have to say that the story, like if you should get used to the rhythm of subscribers and YouTube channel growth, it's definitely periods of spikes caused by like lucky breaks, followed by the trickle. That's what we're going to call it, the trickle.
Oh, the trickle, the dreaded trickle down the pant leg.
Where, you grow, it's slow and modest, and we're going to teach you to love the trickle. To feel proud that today you trickled, because every little bit counts.
It does. And the trickle can be in many forms. The trickle can be anything from like 1 or 2 subs a day, or even less. There were times when I was getting, I think there was a few weeks in summer of 2015 where just weeks would go by without any activity whatsoever, except for like a dislike and an insulting comment. So you're totally right. There is times when it feels like a trickle, and sometimes it feels like the trickle is like trickling back at you. I don't know how to describe that, but yes, you have to embrace the down moments, because when the big moments come, they are stressful, they're crazy, they're exciting, but it's all that pre-planning you put into it, all that setup that you do during the trickle that allows you to have that big boost when it eventually comes.
And I do have to say, like, on that note, you can easily, because sometimes those big moments can last like weeks, and sometimes you can fool yourself into thinking like this is the new normal and anticipate huge futures for yourself and realize that, like, it's a temporary thing, and you're going to go back to, right now for me it's probably like 20-30 subscribers a day, and it's not going to be like last July where it was like 1,000 a day. But we'll get into that story a little later. And the other thing that's really great about us doing a video together is that our channels are probably the closest thing to twins that would exist. When we first reached out to each other a long time ago, we probably each had about 100 subscribers. I think I had a little under and you had a little over. And then
perhaps, yeah.
Over the last 9 months, we hit 10,000 within a month of each other. So that like says that like we've definitely been very much going on this weird journey together.
We are YouTube blood brothers. We are wolf pack. We are linked together in some way. It's awesome, actually. I mean, of course, part of it's because we collaborated together, so we were tossing each other our audiences. But yeah, come July, come June, there definitely was a flip that switched, and so actually the topic of this video, the title was how we got to 10,000 subscribers. So Tristan, what was the switch? What flicked on? What changed the pace for you this summer?
Oh, this summer. Well, I had a slow creep. There was a few successful videos, but I had a slow creep up to 1,000. And we can talk about 1 to 1,000 maybe in a future video or future podcast, because this isn't a video. And we can go into, the little breaks that really made my channel succeed. But I hit 1,000 subscribers actually around the time I got married back in June. And then a couple things happened. We made a video together in May.
Yes, we did.
That was about ISIS and Islam, which got a surprising amount of traffic that started to roll in and get us both a lot of attention. And then in July, I happened to have a collaboration that I had started back in April finally come out with another educational animated YouTube channel who's kind of like our... like that cousin you have that's probably like 10 years older than you, and he's like, you think he's so cool, and like, think about that.
And he's from New Zealand.
Yeah, think about that, but he's like, he's like a New Zealander who lives in the Netherlands, and that's Soliloquy, which is another great channel. I finally did a video with him, and he had about 7,000 subscribers at the time, and I had about 1,000, and then we released this video that was called "Why Is Canada Not Part of America?" And we need to get Soliloquy on because he is an expert at, like, knowing just the right topics to make videos about sometimes.
Yeah, no kidding.
This video has to date is circling around 1 million views.
It's over 800,000 when I talked to him last, when I looked at it.
Yeah, and Soliloquy's channel went from 7,000 to 25,000 in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And mine went from 1,000 to about 9,000 in that same period.
It was amazing. It was amazingly fast.
I felt bad because we had been, we were together, and I blew past you, and then something happened to you, and you just passed 10,000 just the other day. So what happened in your summer?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was the trickle for the longest time. And we posted this video. When did we actually end up posting that video about Islam? I don't know the exact. It was maybe May.
It was May.
But for basically 6 weeks, this video, which was an animated history of the religion of Islam, sat around for maybe 1,000 views, maybe 2,000. I don't know. It was a slow trickle, and we're talking about 10 views an hour, 100 views a day, perhaps. I'm not even sure. But something happened, and the YouTube gods, the YouTube algorithm decided, hey, we want to serve this video to everyone. And so it doubled the amount. So I was getting maybe 200 views a day. And another 24 hours passed, and then it went up to 500, and then to 1,000 views a day. And then at some point, 2 weeks later, I was already getting happy. The video started to get multiple thousand views per hour during certain portions of the day in July. And my subscriber count also started to just skyrocket. This one video now sits at about 330,000 views, 340,000 views, which in the YouTube world is nice, but nothing extraordinary. But that was enough. That one video, that one boost was enough to get me from, I had just gone over 1,000 subs, and yeah, just a week ago, I hit 10,000 subscribers. So it can all happen very fast. And keep in mind, Tristan and I, like we both said, we had channels for a while. My channel had upwards of 100 different random videos on it, I think, before I actually had that one that gave me that big break. So if you are a creator and you're wondering how to get to 10,000 subscribers, the first piece of action I would give you is to sit down and try the crazy things that make you feel uncomfortable. That's rather generic, but we'll get more into details of how you actually do that in the future.
Yeah, actually.
But yeah, that's how I jumped to 10,000.
Yeah, and I would actually put one little piece of advice on that too, and that is the Hank Green of John and Hank Green fame. His best advice that he always gave was the best way to start a YouTube channel is to start it. And perfectionism is really like the death of a YouTube channel in some ways. So like we can talk about like how to view a channel from like the 50,000 foot range, but knowing that having more videos that are good is better than having a few videos that are awesome. Does that make sense?
I think so. I think it does. Of course, it definitely depends on the channel and what they're doing, and what their genre is. I feel like we're entering now, both of us, at a stage of our channels where we now know that, you know, one video can be the difference between no subscribers that month or a very small trickle of subscribers and then 10,000 in a matter of weeks. So I'm starting to lean towards more to the crowd that says you take your time, you get an awesome piece of content out, but never at the sake of being a perfectionist. If I was a perfectionist, then I certainly wouldn't have uploaded the last video I did, in which I wasn't totally pleased with the animations as they stood upon publishing. You have to try to strive for the best and always be improving, but at some point you have to go ahead and get that video up and on the internet for people to see.
Yeah, I would say I agree with you. I would say, though, that what you should have, no matter how good you want to make something, is you should have what I'm going to nickname the itch, which is the longer it's been since your last video came out, the more pressure you should be feeling that new stuff should come out. YouTube very much responds to you making videos regularly, and so don't let a project that takes a long time derail you, and be cognizant when you haven't made something for a while to maybe make something that's a little smaller, because...
God, you're describing my week. My video came out yesterday, my newest video. It was supposed to come out a week ago, and I think even that might have been a couple days delay from the original publishing date. And I'd already been on vacation for 2 weeks in my disastrous Sweden camping trip that Tristan opened the show with. And so I was feeling the heat, and I was feeling the pressure in an intense way. And so my last few days of animating and putting pictures together and stuff were just, you can feel that itch, and it's more like a slight punch in the side every morning when you wake up and know that, oh my God, it's still not up. And you got to get content out. You have to.
Yes. So to kind of push onwards, we do have a list here of things that we might not be too much of experts at ourselves, but, you know, we're going to try and do the learning by teaching method and try to put together and learn from you guys. So if you have any advice on these things, please let us know.
What's our email, Tristan, if people want to give us advice?
It's YTUnitedPodcast at gmail.com.
We're learning.
See, I'm already learning
YTUniteded. Yeah, so email us. What we're talking about here is, like, for example, Tristan and I are learning about animations right now. We both have, within the last few months, started using Adobe After Effects to animate things, but we're not animation professionals, and anyone watching our videos will notice that we are learning and we're improving over time. That's one of the things we're going to talk about on the channel, or on the podcast. SEO, search engine optimization, is a little bit of black magic, but also there's some skill sets to it, and I feel like I've learned a lot about how to rank on websites from doing YouTube. So we're going to talk about that, but we want to hear about the things you want to learn as well. So tell us about narration, being personable on the camera or on audio, about writing a script or coming up with a video idea. These are the sorts of things that we want to help you with, that we can learn together, because Tristan and I are still growing. This is the podcast by growing YouTubers for growing YouTubers. So send us those emails. Let us know what we can talk about that's going to provide value to you.
Yes, and of course, I still feel like I'm not quite a good writer yet. And so even now, I'm usually unhappy with my scripts by the time they come out. And so even things that I thought I'd take for granted, because I've written a bajillion essays and a bajillion scripts by this point. I think I've made almost 40 videos by this point, so...
Yeah, I feel the same way. Narration and storytelling is a tough skill, and it's tough when you have to plan it out like you and I. It's a skill we'll probably be working on until the day we die. But I can imagine that for gamers out there, creating a narrative in the game about what they want to talk about while they're playing, or even to give like a role play kind of scenario over the top of their Let's Play, can be difficult as well. And to do those sorts of things on the fly as improv, I imagine, is a wholly different skill set that's just as difficult.
So I suppose we should move on. Usually this section is about questions. We're going to give you guys Q&As where you guys ask questions about the life. Tell Ed the life. And we will do our best to answer them. And if we don't know, we will put our hardest work to answering it by researching, or we will give you the the premium, highest grade, cream of the crop, dubious answer you can possibly get.
What about the cream of the prop premium? I want that option.
Yeah, okay. I guess because this is the pilot, we don't have Q's to A, really. So why don't we go through, put like a little bit of something that they can take away from this video other than, hey, there's a new podcast. Let's talk a little bit about how each of us makes a video happen. So I'm sure we both have, at this point, put together some sort of checklist or something like that has that could be a good source of advice this early on.
Oh, you have no idea.
Yeah. So let's hear. How does a political junkie video get made?
Political junkie gets made. The first step in a political junkie video is that I have an idea spontaneously. Either I'm walking around or I'm reading something that I think is interesting, and I have this open list. First, it was on my iPhone in Apple Notes. Was just a running list of video ideas. I eventually moved that over into the Todoist app, and it's now, each of my videos is actually like one to-do item in my to-do list, which will probably take me to the end of time to finish. And I have just this running list of video ideas. And when I decide to go all in on one, that's when I start to, first I do surface level research on the internet. I just kind of hop on Wikipedia, or I check to see if there's other YouTube videos are already covering this political or historical topic. And if I start finding out things that are interesting and see a hole in the knowledge base on YouTube, then that's when I will usually order up a book. At least that's what I've been doing for my last few videos. So for my Islam video, for example, the one that got really big, that got me to 10,000 subs, I read a book by Karen Armstrong called A Short History of Islam. That's actually where the video title comes from. And I'm currently researching the city of Berlin for my next video, and I've got a book called Faust Metropolis.
Spoiler alert.
Hey, if anybody steals that idea, I'll be very angry. And I go through the book, I highlight things, I put them into a Word document, the things that I find interesting, or really a Google Doc, a Google Word doc. I don't know what you call that. And my writing style has changed over time. It used to be that I'd write out what I wanted and then sourced it, because that's what I did in university and college. It's come now to where I write out the information first and compile all of my sources, and then I kind of start to write out the narrative that I want to write. And that's been working for me pretty well. That's one of the most difficult parts of being a scripted YouTuber is getting that narrative right, because there's no... Once you get this video out, it's going to be 4 to 6, if not 8 weeks before the next one comes out, so you have to write it well. That's what I do. I get everything written. And then comes the part that's really difficult for me. The most difficult part, I think, of education YouTube channels is the animation. So I've got the audio part somewhat down. I can record my voice pretty well, cut that up, and put that into Premiere Pro. But the tough part comes from actually animating the images that I want to have on the screen. I've learned, first I was using GIMP to Photoshop my pictures. It's strange to say that I'm Photoshopping something with a different program. But yes, I use GIMP to cut images and give them outlines and to make thumbnails, and then I'd move those into Premiere Pro. And when I have them in Premiere Pro, I add them over the top of my audio and start to compile this animation. And I'm currently learning how to go from simply having images slide in and out, or videos fade in and fade out, and actually how to build scenes in animation and move things around the screen in an interesting way.
So how about when it actually, is done?
Once it's done, there's a very long list of things to be done. Number one, of course, is to upload it, add the tags, add the description. I use an app called TubeBuddy to research some tags and to see what everybody else is using for keywords. We can talk about that in another episode. And I add a series of annotations, and one of the tricks that I do to increase watch time is I try to give my audience in the comment section recommendations for other videos that I think they would enjoy that are related to the topic. Once I've got all that done, I go ahead and publish the video, pop it on Twitter. If there's a relevant subreddit, I might post it there. And then I sit back and bite my nails for the next 24 hours until I see if the video's going to do well or not. How about you?
Okay, well, that's actually a pretty sophisticated method, and I'm going to try to not repeat anything that you said, because our methods are similar, but there are some differences. So first of all, I'm experimenting a little bit right now because I launched Patreon about 3 weeks ago now. And with it, I was able to raise enough funds to afford the Adobe Creative Suite. So now I am working in After Effects and in Illustrator rather than like PowerPoint and some like $50 video editor. And that's been an uphill struggle because the animation is now much, much slower than it used to be. But I think it results in a better video. I've made 2 videos in it. I made one about British money and I made one about 9/11, and they've both been relatively well received, so that's good. So let's go back to the beginning. So ideas. Ideas are one of those tricky things because you have a lot of them and you only have a few good ones. And so I actually have a checklist, which I will put on the description of this podcast, which you can do. We have show notes. So in the show notes, I have something I call the idea funnel, and I borrowed this from Josh, who runs a channel called Native Lang. Have you heard of this channel?
I have. I've interacted with Josh.
Yeah, he gave me something that he made called an idea funnel, and his was good, but I didn't like it as much as I would like making my own. And so I run it through. I basically give every idea that I come up with, or that is given to me, like recommended by my subscribers, a score. And this score is based on whether or not I can make some sort of tentpole thing out of this. Like, is there a type of news story I could expect, or a holiday that I could set this up for? Is there good keywords? Like you said, I also use TubeBuddy, and you can use TubeBuddy to explore tags, which looks through tags to find out whether or not they're competitive, like whether or not there's a lot of videos that are using this tag, and also how often people are looking up this on their search function. And you can kind of use that to find out what's a good tag or a bad tag. And if there is at least one, if the one main tag for the video idea, like the first thing I can think of to search for, is good, then I give it a point. Also, if it looks like it's shareable, if it looks similar to the upper half of my YouTube videos sorted by views, so if it's similar to something I've already done that's been successful, whether or not I'm contributing to the overall knowledge, whether or not this will resonate with my target audience. We'll talk about target audiences in a future podcast for sure. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I have a few things that are really interesting. Like I give myself a point for stretching creatively. So if I know I'm going to have to draw new things, or if I'm going to be researching something that I'm not entirely familiar with, I give it a point because that means more variety. And the channel grows by that kind of thing. I give a point for something being usable for a classroom. So if I think that this could fit into a lesson plan, I put that in there. If there's a potential for a collaboration, if it's evergreen, which we'll talk about evergreen too at some point, I imagine.
Oh, definitely.
I give points for videos that are requested, whether or not it could generate discussion, and whether or not it's part of an ongoing series. And then I also have like major subjects. This is based on my own channel metrics, like time period, because I'm a history channel, and theme. And I actually have a listener survey that about 100 people have filled out by this point, and I actually give it points based on how well different subjects and different time periods did. And I remove some if there's already good videos on the topic, and if the topic is due to change, or if I feel 100% comfortable making a video like this. I actually will take away a point if my video looks like it's not going to be controversial.
Tristan, can I jump in here and ask you, with this list, this checklist, which honestly is impressive, do you not have a feeling before you even start to put it through the algorithm here that, like, do you not have a feeling in your gut, like, this is a good video, this is not? Do you not have that sense? I'm still learning about it. Like, obviously not every video I've made has been a hit, obviously, but sometimes you just have a feeling like this is a good idea. Sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely have a spidey sense, and I actually find that I will, in my head, guess which ones will do well and which ones will do poorly. And sometimes I'm confirmed, but also sometimes I'm surprised. And I imagine that has an effect. And so I imagine that seeing what kind of video ideas are successful and which kinds aren't with this method results in me, in general, generating good ideas. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I can, for example, my latest video was about third parties in the U.S. And from the get-go, I knew it was controversial, but I could tell in my gut that it wasn't going to be a video that like hit the big time, because it's a niche subject. And I kind of, with the Islam video, I had just a feeling that it was going to do well. I didn't know it was going to do 333,000 views well, but I just kind of had the sense that, like, yeah, that's a good topic, that's a good title, it's controversial, it's informative, and therefore, like, just in my gut, it's good. And I've never put my stuff through a checklist before. This is interesting. We've already found a big difference between how we operate now in episode 1 of YouTubers United.
Well, I used to have a, like, gut for it. But then when I made this checklist, I started realizing that some of my instincts were off, and also that some ideas that I had thought, to put on the back burner to do much, much later are actually quite good and I should be doing now. And then there's some ideas that I was really excited about that, given what, the tags say and what the fans are responding with, might not actually be something I should do right away.
So what you're really trying to say is that we should have an episode where we invent a checklist for me. You give me things that should be on the checklist, and I say things that I want on the checklist. And we come up with a master checklist for all the listeners.
I'm sure that would help out everyone really well. So after I get my ideas, my plan is now to choose the highest rated idea for my next video. And then I research it, which involves me. I luckily am an employee of a university, so I can just go to the university and take out any books I need or look up any articles I need to read. And that's a very nice privilege I have for the next few years.
Oh, I'm so jealous right now.
Yeah, I also live like half hour walk from a big fancy like 5-story library. So I then take my notes and I walk in, and then when I go do my script, I typically outline it, first draft it, read it aloud, make sure it sounds good. Then, when I am perfectly happy with it, I think it's ready to go, I hand it off to my editor, i.e. my wife, and then I find out how not good it is. She's an amazing person because she's kind, but also can be totally brutal to my writing, which I love. And sometimes it makes me grumpy at the time, but I ultimately am super happy with how it looks later, so I'm happy that she puts up with me being grumpy. It's like when you are giving a thermometer to like the dog, and the dog gets super pissed off, but it's going to be best for the dog in the long run.
So your wife's editing is like a thermometer for a dog. Okay, that's the token of wisdom for today's podcast.
It just means that I am a giant baby when it comes to criticism. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Then I reread it aloud, and I put in like all of my little subscribe and like and share and send to your mother and all that kind of stuff. I then go and record the audio, which I am still not happy with, and I'm hoping that maybe I'll get to some point amount of Patreon funding that I can justify buying a new recording rig, which would be nice. Get myself
a rig.
Well, I want to get a Blue Yeti and maybe something like a wall or something to make a really nice audio setup.
Good.
I have a background in audio engineering. I just don't have a budget for audio engineering, so I gotta work on that somehow. Then I animate. And now I'm trying to think of when I have all of that done, which I call pre-animation stage, I then put it into my animation queue. And every day I'm going to animate about maybe 2 minutes of footage, which takes about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. And also work on my next video that's in pre-animation stage. And hopefully when a video graduates from its animation stage, I put it up. And that involves, not only putting the title, description, which when you get really good at YouTube, the description takes forever. I have to go find those affiliate links. Those are always fun. I have an affiliate program set up with Amazon. And so some of the books that I use to make the script, I'll put in the description with a link. So if somebody wants to read one of the books that I used, they can click that link and I get a commission if they buy the book.
That's weird. I've been thinking about doing that. Do you get clicks on those? I've never heard you mention that in a video.
It's new. I haven't done it yet. I thought it would be covert, but maybe I should actually mention it.
Yeah, I've considered doing that when I just at the beginning or the end of a video saying, "Hey, this is the book that I used to research this video, for example, is based off of A Short History of Islam by Karen Armstrong. There's a link to it in the description if you want to read it." And it's pennies, right? But in the YouTube world, pennies are everything.
Yeah, I always say that the life of a creative, the lifeblood of a creative is a trail of nickels, a trickle of nickels, or a stream of nickels.
What's up with the word trickle today? There's lots of trickling going on. If we weren't calling this How to Get to 10,000, we could call this first episode The Trickle.
The trickle. Then, there's, of course, all the little annoying things, which I'm sure you also hate, which will be things like not only the tags, but then putting in the cards and then putting in the annotations. And then the most fun part, the closed captions, then the translation into French, and then the Google translation into everything else, which I use the top 10 most spoken languages on the internet, which I guess is like my simple thing to go for. Luckily, when it comes to release, like when the video actually goes out, I have a few things in IFTTT, which is a great website, by the way, which is a website that kind of plugs into various websites and can automate certain functions. Like, if a new video comes out, post it on Twitter, if like that kind of thing.
Okay, if-then kind of scenarios.
Yeah, it's really great, and if you can play around with that, it actually will be really useful for running a social media empire. So a lot of it gets done, but still I have to upload it onto Facebook's video format. And then and Google Plus doesn't work with IFTTT, so I have to do that myself. Stumble upon, pin the post on Twitter. I have a MailChimp list with about 9 people who want to get emails when I have videos come out, so I send it to them. Ooh. I have my own personal website that I put them up on. In TubeBuddy, they have something called vid-to-vid promotion, which is where you add your video to the description of all of your other videos and make it the featured video. Have you tried that out?
Are you using TubeBuddy Pro?
No.
Or is that for free as well?
It's a free function.
Oh, okay. Well, I would definitely need to try that out.
Yeah, so every video on Step Back that you go to will have in the description at the very bottom a link saying, go check out my latest video, and I can change it, automatically change it.
Oh, man. I wish there was a way to track that, to know if it was actually doing anything.
It helps with a little bit of, because you can see if you look on your analytics on YouTube, you can find traffic sources, and if you see a lot of people coming in from other videos of yours, that's usually a good sign. And the other thing that I would do is I make an IFTTT. Now, this is something I got advice from Soliloquy, which is I find, like the unique video identifier that every YouTube video has. It's like a string of characters and numbers at the end of the URL. You can actually take that number, write URL : then the code, and you can make that a search function. And IFTTT has a function where you can search Reddit and look for new things on Reddit. So I have an IFTTT that's set up every time I make a new video to look for URL : then the video code. And if it sees a new video with that, or a new post on Reddit with that code, it sends me an email. So I get an email anytime one of my videos ends up on Reddit.
Oh my God! Okay, we got to write that down and use that. I need that in my life so bad. That explains. There's another really cool YouTuber. We should have him on sometime because the Windover Productions is another animated YouTuber who went from 10,000 to well over 170,000 subscribers in a series of months. And he did it by writing the front page of Reddit videos.
Reddit's going to have to be its own episode, I think.
Reddit will have to get its own episode. But what he did was that every time it showed up in the front page of Reddit, I noticed in the comment section that he would be the first comment saying, hey, guys, follow me on Twitter. I'm the creator of this video. But he wasn't posting it himself. So I thought that somebody was just posting for him and tipping him off or something. But now this makes sense. He was getting that URL email. It must be.
Yeah. It's a great thing to have. And I feel really good for it. I also have to make stuff for Patreon, because now I have patrons who are entitled to things because they pay for me to make videos. And so I put the video up on there, but also for my $3 and up patrons, I make a wallpaper for every video. So I take like a nice frame for my video and turn it into a bunch of different resolution wallpapers and put that up for all of my patrons.
Cool. We can have an episode about Patreon as well. For all of you listening, and you're still listening, first of all, we appreciate this. This is the pilot episode, but now we're compiling all of our ideas right now, what we want to talk about for you guys in the future. This is great.
The other thing I do is I also have a social media strategy for each video that is a year long. So I have all that happen at release. Then I have another time where a week later I'll add it back into my buffer queue. We can talk about buffer too, but it's basically an automated social media posting site where it actually uses analytics to find the best times on your Twitter /Google Plus /Facebook page to post things. And you can just put things in a queue that come out on that time. And I put my videos a week after release into those. And then I do it a month afterwards. And I actually put it back in every single month for a year, and then the video finally can retire. And actually after a while, after you've made a few videos, almost every day you have something to put in your buffer that's your own content, so that's really nice.
And I don't know if I've told you this, Tristan, but I have you in a very specific Twitter list because I find Twitter annoying, and I don't like to go on that site very often until I've figured this out. You can make these lists. I sound like a grandpa right now. I don't like the Twitter, but I have this list of YouTubers that I follow specifically. So I go and I have you on there. I have Name Explain, Soliloquy, I think Mr. Beat, Christy Winters, some other people. And so when I go onto Twitter, I usually just go to that list to see what you guys are up to. And yeah, I noticed that you post quite a lot through Buffer, and specifically every day, about once or maybe once every 2 days, there'll be a video of yours from a blast from the past, from Step Back History, that you post there. So that's clever. We can definitely talk about how you use Buffer to keep content evergreen over time.
Of course, and the last thing I do is that a week after release, I have a post-release critique, which is where Kelly, my wife, and I watch my video again, and we go through again with her wonderfully, totally appreciated brutality, look up everything that's wrong so that we can fix it for next time. So that
Tristan, so I've learned something from you now, and I feel like we operate in different ways. I find that I can watch my content up until the point that I publish it, and then I can no longer watch it because I become hypercritical of my own work. Do you find that you're your biggest critic, or do you find that maybe Kelly is your biggest critic, or is it some combination thereof?
I think we're both good at looking at things with a critical eye. We've been, we're both academics. She has a PhD, so we've both been, looking and evaluating things for a long time. I usually don't like to watch my videos again. I actually don't mind most of the time, but I usually, only one more time after I release the video will I sit and watch it with my full attention the entire time, and that's when I'm going to pick apart what went wrong, because I think that YouTube is an iterative process, which means that you need to look at every video you make and see what you could do better, and then do better next time, so you don't get stuck in any ruts. And I feel like if no other advice comes out of this system, do that, because that means you will improve video on video.
Do you find that your iterative process has become more, do you feel more critical of yourself than maybe in the past? Do you find that as your content's improved, you've also become more critical, or do you think that it's a slow, steady increase? Like, what I mean is, like, if I could see the video I posted yesterday, a year ago, I would have said, oh my God, I'm amazing. But I look at it now and I say, wow, there is so much that needs to be done. It's not good enough. Do you have that same phenomenon?
I mean, I have a sliding bar when it comes to things. I feel like my expectation for what my video quality is going to be goes up video on video. And sometimes I get too comfortable. And I've gotten comfortable at several points this year, where maybe for a few weeks I didn't do it, and then I'll make a video or I'll do some sort of mistake that gets me in a lot of trouble, and I kind of have to rein myself in. But in the end, I do have a slight expectation that every video I make will be slightly better than the one I made before, but I don't compare it to perfection. I compare what I've done to what I did before, or what my next thing will be, which I feel makes me have a little bit more self-esteem. I really realize that I am a human being, and human beings can make flawed videos. All videos have flaws. And so I just hope to be better than I was before and be happy with that.
That's good. We can talk about, maybe we can start our next episode with our most embarrassing YouTube stories. I have a horror story or two about video ideas that went way too far, about typos in text on videos that people point out, videos being taken down, made private. I have several of those stories from the early days of my channel, as recently as a few months ago. I think that'd be a nice subject for maybe next time.
Yes, and I can tell everybody about how I pissed off an entire Nordic country. Anyways, This has been YouTubers United. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you stayed this long, please consider subscribing to us on iTunes if you haven't already. And of course, if you like this podcast, you want to see more of it, give us a 5-star review, because this channel, this podcast, grows by your help getting it up in the search rankings. iTunes doesn't work like YouTube.
Ratings,
it doesn't
guys.
have all those algorithms helping us.
Go and leave the 5-star rating. 5 stars, guys. That was excellent what you just listened to.
And we're also going to be up on Stitcher or SoundCloud or YouTube or wherever it is great podcasts are sold. So come and find us on your most convenient platform and keep listening, because we're going to grow, you're going to grow, we are all in this together. YouTubers United. Man, that was super clever.
That was good.
All right, and cut.